Dave, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance since this is your first year? I think it would be appropriate. Thank you. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So I'd like to welcome David Ty to the Munhall Borough family here. David is our new Borough Manager. I wish you all the success, Dave, and I'm very glad that you're here. So, Melissa, do you want to do the roll call?
Sure.
Okay. You want me to do the roll call?
Yeah, can you?
Oh, sure.
Thanks. Just today.
All right.
Next Tuesday.
President Brennan is here. Mr. Vodadian?
Here.
Mr. Youngkins?
Here.
Mr. Eads?
Here.
Ms. Fry?
Here.
Mr. Rondo?
Here.
Mayor?
Here.
I'm not going to introduce the rest of the staff today, so we'll leave it at that. Okay. Thank you all for coming, people in the audience. I didn't leave out any council people, did I? Didn't think so.
Barney's absent, that's all.
Barney Shields, I believe he's recovering. He's been sick. I believe he's had COVID, if I understand. All right, so let's move to our registered presentations. Ann Lewis from the COG, Stu Valley COG, will be making a presentation about the land bank. Ann, you have the podium.
Hi there. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all again. Some of you have had a flavor of this presentation before. And in light of the fact that some of us political wonks might want to watch a debate later, I'm going to try and be brief. But I appreciate the invitation to come back and talk to you about the Tri-Cog Land Bank. The land bank, some of you may know and may remember, was founded in 2017. And it was really established. It grew out of the COGS. It actually is its very own separate organization. It was established as a response to the significantly negative impacts borne more so to municipalities than any other taxing body caused by vacant, abandoned, and blighted properties. When we did our study in 2013, when we initiated this conversation, we measured at that time the costs of code enforcement, police, fire, demolition, the loss of tax revenues. We also looked at and actually discovered that the most significant impact to these problem properties languishing is on the property values of adjacent properties. So really, although the direct costs are borne by the municipality, the indirect costs are borne by your residents. If your property is in good shape and within 150 feet of a property that is in bad shape, your property values are at least 15% less than what your neighbors would be. And so that is really what compelled us and others to sort of start this land bank. Another thing that has happened and that also grew out of this same conversation in addition to the land bank is a multi-municipal code enforcement program that's run by Turtle Creek Valley COG and the development of the code enforced software. So a land bank is one tool in the toolkit to address properties. And really, the work of a land bank, while the end results can be sexy, the work of a land bank itself is not really sexy. It's legal work. It is what land banks really do is they participate, most of the properties that land banks acquire are through tax sale. We intervene in the tax sale process, we take legal control of the property, we clear title on that property so that a new owner can safely own the property and qualify for and obtain title insurance. Most of us as property owners, you get title insurance, you pay for it at the time of closing, it ensures your interest in the property. If somebody ever missed something that goes back to the beginning of when the parcel was created, that is lienable against the property, title insurance protects you. So anytime there are clouds on the title, a foreclosure, a death, tangled title where somebody passed a property to their heir and didn't take care of the legal work, all of those things can come up and bite a property owner financially. So title insurance is really, really important. So we do that. The other thing that we're able to do that is we are able to be very selective about our buyers. Our buyers have to demonstrate that they have the financial and technical capability to take on our properties. Most of our properties are not move-in ready. In fact, almost none of our properties, we have a new program that I'll talk about in a couple minutes, but almost none of our properties, as they come to us, are move-in ready. Most of them require a substantial amount of work. So our buyers have to prove that they are responsible. That means they cannot own any properties that are tax delinquent or have code enforcement violations anywhere. We have gotten very good at finding properties. We ask our buyers to tell us which properties they own, but we also go looking. And we've gotten very good at finding properties and identifying properties that have outstanding code enforcement violations against them or tax delinquencies. So people buying from us have to remediate those things before they're eligible to buy. So the moral of that story is we do not sell to irresponsible, slumlords. Secondly, our buyers have to demonstrate that they have the capability to provide the investment in the properties that's necessary. So as best as we can help it, we want to make sure that anybody purchasing properties from us can get to an occupancy permit. And so they have to prove that they can do that financially and that, if they say, oh, my estimated costs are half of yours because I'm going to do all the work myself. Okay, great. What expertise do you have that demonstrates that you have the capability of doing that work? And we need you to show us examples, because once we sell a property, until those properties have an occupancy permit that they've gotten from the borough, we put an enforcement mortgage on them. It has a monetary value, but it's not like a traditional mortgage where you get money out of it. But what that is it's a legal lien against the property such that if the buyer doesn't fulfill their obligations under our sales agreement, i.e. they don't renovate it, we can take it back. Because the last thing we want to do is perpetuate blight. Those are special powers that we have as a land bank that other organizations cannot do in the way that we do. We also look to find the highest and best use of the property. So if Munhall is prioritizing owner occupancy, we will prioritize owner occupancy. If Munhall says, we don't care, we just want a responsible owner and we want it back on the tax rolls, we don't care if it's a rental, we don't care if it's owner occupied, just sell it. We have some communities that feel like that. So we work in lockstep with the municipalities, our municipal members, to understand your goals and to make sure our property transactions reflect those goals. The places where we have the most successful relationships is where we have a strong relationship and two-way communication with the borough manager and or the code enforcement officer. Because, you know, Boomer's gonna know everything, you know, when someone dies, he's gonna find out first. You know, when the family comes in, ransacks the house, gets all of their stuff, and then walks away from it, he's gonna know about that way before it ever gets to tax sale or anything like that. So we have found that that is our best relationship, because regardless of if it's us or anybody else, the best time to intervene is right away. The longer that a property sits empty, the more likely it is that the midnight plumbers are gonna come shopping for copper, it's gonna be vandalized, you know, water is gonna infiltrate it, and it's gonna go from being savable to a demolition. You know, I'm happy to answer questions and talk more in depth about our governance strategy, but I wanna like highlight a couple things for you. We are a lot further along than we were since I was here the last time. There are lots of examples we can share with you of work that we've done. We're a lot older. We have had our hands on 220 properties at this point. We have 53 that are coming in the front. We currently own 89. We have sold 78. And of those, some of them are vacant lots without an enforcement mortgage. We have had 52 enforcement mortgages. Of those, 25, almost half are satisfied. And what that means is there are new owners, there are new people, new families living in those houses. They're fully renovated and occupied. Natalie pulled some stats, and actually I was pleasantly surprised that when we start to look at like our disposition of the properties that we've sold 28% of them we've sold directly to an owner occupant. However, we've also sold 16% to a nonprofit and 24% to a developer to sell, which ultimately ends up, they flip them, and those ultimately end up as owner occupied. So our owner occupant rate is about 76%, which for most of our communities, that's a priority. It's not something we can guarantee, but it is, you know, it is something that we strive for. For you guys to look at your leisure, we've added some photographs. These are not the extremes. These are our typical properties. When they come to us, they are very often very overgrown, and they are very often very full of stuff. The things that we do with every property is we maintain them to your code, right? So as soon as we have an interest in the property, we contact our landscaping firm, we start cutting grass and shoveling snow. Once we also go out, Natalie will go out, our property manager Gary, or I forget what his title is, his guy Fen, one of them will go, two of them will go out, they'll go into the property, they'll evaluate it, and they'll make sure it's secure. Once we have the property in our inventory, we will make arrangements to clean it out. So, you know, all of the stuff will be removed. Depending on the property, its condition, your priority, a lot of factors. Some of the properties that are in better shape than others, we will renovate internally. We want to develop a relationship to work directly with owner occupants and to sell directly to people in our communities. That program is called Reno Light. It's something we've just developed. Now that we have some experience under our belt, we don't ever want to be a soup to nuts property developer, but those kind of lighter development projects we're discovering we can actually do, and it's a good vehicle to get those properties into the hands of our new owners. So there are some examples of all of those things and photographs. The last thing that I want to just share and to go over again is if you decide that you want to participate in the land bank, you have to agree to the terms of our intergovernmental cooperation agreement. I've sent all of that documentation to David. He can go over that with you. He can share it with your solicitor, and your solicitor can go over it with you as well. But the three sort of key components that you agree to is you agree that any outstanding tax liabilities are gone, right? So dead people don't pay taxes. We are not going to make you or any other taxing body whole. It's the money that we have should go into the work of recycling property, not paying old tax debt. So that's the first thing, is you agree to allow us on your behalf as a part of that title clearing process to discharge those liens. The second thing is the Land Bank Act allows for a tax sharing for 5 years, 50-50. And so once that property is sold and it returns to the tax rolls and the new owner starts paying tax, half of that will go to the borough, the other half will go to us for 5 years. Starting in year 6, it's all yours. The third thing is an annual dues, if you will, that is a calculation based on your delinquent tax collection activities. 5% of the face value of 1 year of tax collected in the previous year. So if you were to join in 2025, in December of this year, we would ask you for the 2023 taxes that were collected in 2024, and it would be 5% of that amount. For many of our municipalities, of your size, it's about $5,000. But again, that would depend, and it varies, it fluctuates from year to year, but that would depend on your collection rates. Questions?
Is that delinquent tax?
Yes, it's 1 year delinquent only. So if I'm delinquent and I pay 10 years of tax, it's only the 1 year of that 10. It's not every delinquency, it's only 1 year.
Question.
Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah,
Is there some kind of criteria, the person who buys these houses, if they say they're gonna do it themselves, re-up the house themselves, do we inspect that house or somehow make sure it's done the
Yes.
proper way?
yes. So when we sell a house, I mentioned an enforcement mortgage. The land bank will put an enforcement mortgage down on the house, and that enforcement mortgage will stay until they obtain an occupancy permit. So that inspection will be done by a professional. Whoever does your occupancy permits will go out and inspect and make sure that that house complies with, your ordinances regarding your occupancy permits. Once that permit is issued, then we'll pull the plug. If there are deficiencies, they'll have to correct them. And we have, I don't want to get into a lot of details, I'm happy to, but we have criteria in our sales agreement that are prescriptive in terms of how long they have to complete the work, so that it's not languishing year after year after year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
No, I think we should join. We should put it on agenda for next week.
What do the dues, do they go by the size of your municipality?
No, it's based on your delinquent tax
Oh, you
collection.
did say that. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's okay, it's a lot of information.
Okay.
I think we should review what the ins and outs are of the contract and before we go rushing in to vote on something. I think David should look at this and give us his opinion.
So one thing I do want to tell you is that, first of all, land banking is a long-time solution. It's not a quick fix, right? Like didn't happen overnight, it's not gonna get corrected overnight. And there's a timetable to dealing with these properties. The legal process takes about, at the shortest possible, we're hoping to get to like 9 months to a year, but typically it's a year to a year and a half from soup to nuts, start to finish, before we get a property and we're able to sell it because of the legal system. So, and it's not the kind of program where you can kind of go in and go out. So membership to the land bank is from January to December each year. In order for you to join in 2025, you will have to pass your legislation, which is an ordinance that David has, by our October meeting, which is October 17th. So of course, you should take whatever time you need, but if you're not able, there's still time, but not a lot of time. So if you're not able to pass your legislation and reach an agreement to join by our October deadline, which would be your October meeting, then the next opportunity to join would not be until January of 2026.
And what was the one word, when you said the house is sold, there is a mortgage until the occupancy?
An enforcement mortgage.
Oh,
It is a
enforcement.
legal document that gets registered against that property, so that if the land bank sells me a property and I'm in over my head and I walk away, that enforcement mortgage is something that we can foreclose upon. Just like a bank, if you take out a mortgage to buy your house, can foreclose and take the house back. This is not exactly that, but it's similar. If I walk away, the land bank can foreclose on the enforcement mortgage and get the property back, so it's not just sitting there. Because otherwise, as long as the taxes are being paid, there's nothing the municipality or the school district or the county can do, other than code violations, which are, that's not the way to go after getting a property.
So on the enforcement mortgage, that, the land bank won't walk away if they have to enforce it. The
No,
land bank will then try to rehome it to somebody else.
correct.
Okay.
Correct. And the other thing is that we value transparency. We work in a lot of places. We are now in 28 municipalities. We are very, very open about what properties we take, what we're doing. Before we take a property, we will give the borough 60 days notice and say, we are looking at this property. If you guys tell us no, we won't take it. Before we're gonna sell a property, we will send you legal notice and give you 60 days notice that we are ready at the end of the process and about ready to sell the property. So, you know, a lot of people in the beginning, less so now, but we're really nervous about knowing what we were doing and which properties and are we gonna get our fair share. We put all of our cards on the table. There's no reason not to. So,
Are there any houses that you've turned down from taking into the land?
so I can tell you houses that we would turn down. And blatantly obvious demo. The house is leaning, there's a big hole in the roof, and there's no other alternative but a demo. Like, we can't wave a magic wand and bring that back. So unless there is a reason, we have taken demos. For example, we're just at the end of, we might have even closed on it, the house in Wilkins. We worked with Wilkins Township. There was a house and a vacant lot, and a house that was in need of demolition. The township went after CDBG dollars. They tore the house down. We took the lot we combined it with the house, we chased grant money from DCED, we fully renovated that house, and did we close?
Close Thursday.
It closes Thursday, and we're selling it to a brand new owner who has a house and a really big yard. So like that's an example where, there's another example in Rankin. There were two houses side by side. One of them was salvageable, the other one was a wreck. We went after Act 152 funds, we tore down the wreck, we transferred the house that was sellable and the vacant lot to Rebuilding Together Pittsburgh, an affordable housing developer. They are actively fully renovating it. It's supposed to be done really soon, and then it will be sold as an affordable housing unit, the house and the lot. So a situation like that, if there was a house and a demo, we would take both. The other thing that we do is if you identify or we identify with Dave or the other David, a house and there's vacant land around it, we'll look at it. And if that vacant land is tax delinquent and, just sitting there, we'll take it too. Because it doesn't make sense to take a house and leave a tax delinquent lot. So we'll take the house and the lot and we'll combine them and then transfer those to a new owner. Like we did that, like the smallest one to date, I think is the one we did in Dravosburg. It was a sliver. It was 96 square feet. It was ridiculous what we had to go through to get that lot because there were no delinquent taxes on it because the tax bill was so small, not even the county was leaning it. But we got it and it's now a full parcel. That will have a brand new house built on it. We just got federal money through appropriations to build a permanently affordable house on that lot. So,
What's the cost
Yeah.
of that?
of what?
The new affordable house?
I can't tell you yet, we haven't built it yet, but we got $1.7 million in federal funding to build 4 houses on 7 lots in the McKeesport Area School District.
There are gonna be mansions?
No, that's what it costs to build a new house.
Around, Rich, around $325,000, I was just recently told.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's what it costs. And that's why preserving naturally affordable housing stock is important. Because most real estate markets, like the only reason we're doing that is because we got $1.7 million of federal money. Otherwise, that kind of investment would not happen in McKeesport and Dravosburg. So saving your housing stock is really smart. Because unless you can support 350, and that's on the cheap.
That's cheap.
So I was just talking to Jesse Wigg across the street. He is looking, those new houses he's building in Homestead, he's looking to sell them for $500,000. And that's not so he can be super wealthy, that's what it costs to build a new house. That's why they're not going up here unless they are subsidized with federal money. And so we'll see what happens. I mean, time will tell. But Jesse told me those houses are costing him about $400 to $450 a piece.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So if, most people can't afford that much house. And that's why saving your naturally affordable housing stock is important.
Agreed.
So a couple things. When the person buys the house, they have an agreement with you that they will fix that house.
Yes.
When I say X amount of time, what's X amount of time? Are we saying 3 years?
Yeah,
Or are
so,
we saying
yeah, they
8
have,
years?
sorry, so, yeah, so the enforcement mortgage, they have to start work within 6 months. They can't stop work for more than 6 months. We check in with them every 6 months, so on the 6-month mark, we'll send an email, they have to send us photos and like a description of what they did. And then at the year mark, we go out and actually do a physical, we meet them and just see what they've done, and they have 3 years to complete it. Most get it done within far before 3 years. If something happens, because sometimes life happens,
Sure.
and they communicate with us that maybe they need an extension, we'll bring it in front of our board, and and they can offer an extension, but generally it's 3 years.
And that's modeled after existing code, construction code. I forget what it is.
It's 5 years for
Dave,
UCC,
you may
5 years
know,
for you can,
but-
home permit.
Yeah, our property development manager is a former code enforcement officer, and so he helped figure out a timeline that was reasonable, and so that's where that timeline came from.
Reasonable's a great word, Ann. The other thing I was gonna ask you, so if we would join, how do you choose out of the 28 communities that you're working with, how do you choose who gets the money? Is it the group that's been with you the longest amount of time? So unfortunately, let's just say Munhall and one other community joined in 2025, we would be at the bottom of the list.
No, it's not that way at all, actually. You guys, in quite honesty, you guys would probably be more competitive than others because you're gonna always wanna put like your biggest wins first, right? The properties that are most likely to be successful, you're gonna do the easy stuff first. That's the stuff that's most attractive to us. Let's not like play games. We are in a highly politicized environment. We have 28 members that we are beholden to. We pay attention to all of them all the time. You know, I've been at the COG now for 22 years. That's the way the game is played, right? That said, we don't just deploy resources willy-nilly. We look at our budget, we look at the number of properties we can take on, and then in each round, every municipality, actually not even every municipality, certain municipalities say, here's our lists. We take all of those together. If we can take, in any given round, let's say, we can take on 50 properties, and we get 75 choices, we pick the 50 from the 75, and we pick the ones that are most likely to be successful. Also, if we start working on a street, and there's one bad apple on the street, we're one and done. But if we go and we start working on a street and there's a house that needs attention here, a house that needs attention here, and a house that needs attention here, we are not going to stop working on that street until all 3 of those houses are tended to.
Really?
Because otherwise we're destroying our own investment. Because we got into this work learning that blight hurts adjacent properties. So if we flip one and we don't flip the other ones, we're just harming our own investment and yours. So, I mean, that's the way that we work. We score our properties, we look at the condition they're in, we look at the real estate market, there are so many different factors. Is it next to a school? Is it across from your park? Is it the first thing you see when you come into town? Those are all things that bump it up on the list.
So that we submit the list?
Yeah. And if you need help, we will come help you. There are some communities where we're like, hey, we're not getting stuff from, Borough X. We drive. We will, I say we, Natalie drives. And also Natalie is a GIS genius and a data master, and we have another employee named Vanny. So they get on the computer and they can figure out which ones are likely unoccupied. Then we go out and we drive and we check. And then we communicate with the borough and we say, hey, we were at 123 Any Street. That looks like it's unoccupied. It might be a good candidate for the land bank. What do you think? And if they say yes, then we go after it. If they say no, then we don't.
Thank you, Ann.
Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you. David, let me know if there are any follow-up questions.
I'll be in touch.
Okay, Bob, go Ted. Go.
Yes.
Getz, I'm sorry, Bob.
We're not gonna try this.
You're with Trans Associates,
Correct.
and you're going to speak on your findings regarding the traffic calming.
Right.
That's on Ravine Street, correct?
Might have to share.
You're the bottle chair. Okay, you can have a chair.
Thank you.
They are fucking scared. Where's the fucking-
Did we leave this down?
I don't think it's gonna, I don't think it's
No.
gonna.
No, that's all right. We'll just, I have no one here. That's the only reason I have this up. So again, my name is Bob Getz, Trans Associates. We were brought on board for the study for Ravine Street by the Borough Engineer back in, I want to say, May of this year. I'm going to go through things. If you have questions during my presentation, just ask, and we'll try to address them then. I don't know if anywhere else in the borough you've studied or implemented traffic calming, but just a real quick definition on the second page. I'm not going to read it to you, but basically what we try to do here is either lower speeds, divert volumes, or both. That's pretty much the extent of it. There's a lot of different ways to do that. In this particular study, though, I think the main issue was just the speed of the vehicles. So, in the purpose of the study, you can read there. So what we do is we take a look at, PennDOT's adopted a manual, and it's certainly not a new manual. It's been out about 20 years. It was updated last in 2012. So they have a traffic calming manual, things to look at, what to evaluate, etc. And it was pretty much adopted from a publication that the Institute of Transportation Engineers put out in the late 1990s. So there's a lot of good information in it. It's basically how to do one of these studies and how to evaluate from a quantitative standpoint on whether you need traffic calming or not. And that's basically how we went about doing this study. So starting with the study area, so this is the length of Ravine Street from 837 up to the borough line. And it's approximately 1.1 miles in length. 0.7 miles are under borough control. The last 0.4 miles are a county road right up to the West Mifflin line there, and it continues on county. And that's an important point. I'll come back to that a little later. But so on the borough ownership, basically have a slide in there about existing conditions, and I'm sure you're all familiar with it. I'm not going to go into great detail what you have there, but basically one lane each direction, 26 feet wide is the borough portion of it. The county portion's delineated with center line, edge lines, 11-foot lanes. The one interesting thing, and just because of the topography of this street, is it lies in a valley. There's actually few intersecting streets with it. This over 1 mile section, there's only about 3 or 4 intersecting streets, and basically they don't really even connect with anything. So I can see why it's a shortcut, particularly to get from Mount Lebanon down to 837 and other places. It just makes sense. Grades, not much of a grade because you're in the valley there. There is a short section of 7%. Parking, so you have parking restrictions along the east side, a lot along the west side. You can see some cars parked there, 2 wheels up on the curb. I just drove through there on my way here tonight, and there's a lot of cars parked all along the west side of the road. And that kind of constricts it. In a way, you may consider that traffic calming because that in itself will slow vehicles down because there are obstacles in the road.
10-ton posted weight limit. Used to be a, well, what's now PRT route, is not anymore as I understand it, but it does serve Steel Valley school buses. And then posted speed, of course, is 25 miles per hour the entire length. So what we do when we go about doing these studies, first thing we do is go out and set our equipment, and so there's a slide in there. We set up 6, these are pneumatic tube recorders. They were out there a full 7 days in June and July. So what they're picking up is data like how fast vehicles are going across it, just the volume of vehicles in each direction and what type of vehicles they are, and the like. So this is pretty much the core of the study, because the data that comes back from this, we're going to look at and see if indeed you have is there a speeding problem out there, or there are other problems out there. So the counters we set up, the recorders we set up, were in the 1,000 block, the 1,200 block, and the 1,300 block. And you can see on the slide about study findings, it's, average speeds on a 25 mile per hour posted street varied from almost 32 miles per hour to almost 35 miles per hour. And that's the average. So traffic engineers use something called the 85th percentile speed. That's just the speed that 85% of the vehicles are traveling at or below. A lot of times, PennDOT use 85th percentile speed to set things like speed limits on, say, more rural roads. But what you see there is, between 11 mile per hour and 14 mile per hour is the 85th percentile speed. And that's important because a lot of criteria when it comes to traffic calming, and whether it's needed or not, they look at anything above 10 mile per hour over as probably a good candidate to implement traffic calming and try to slow the vehicles down. So you're definitely in that range or even beyond that. I looked over the data, not all of it because it was pretty voluminous. There's over 2,000 cars a day on the street. We had one as fast as 67 miles per hour, believe it or not. I mean, we had a bunch like over 50. So yeah, there's people clipping there. Particularly, we noticed it's a little later in the evening, early in the morning. 12 reportable crashes. Again, reportable crash either means damaged vehicle had to be towed away or injury involved. So there were more crashes than this. These are just reportables in the state database. 12 over the past 5 years. A lot of side swipes and a couple head-on crashes. There was one crash identifying speeding as a factor. Again, average daily volume. It was a little higher in the block closest to 837, and then as you go further south, it's just over 2,000. Looked at, talked to both the fire chief and MAPS, and we always like to get their input because this is going to affect their times, their response times, and their vehicles. So we'd like to get their input, and basically, yeah, it's going to add a little response time, but I think they were both on board with it in terms of safety benefits of some sort of traffic calming. Pedestrians are another thing we look at in the streets we do. We didn't really witness a whole lot of pedestrian activity here. I mean, one of the problems you have is there's very limited sidewalks and they're not really continuous. So we did see some pedestrians, a few that were there actually walking out in the street. And another reason to try to slow the speed down. There's a table in here. I'm not going to go through that in any detail. Project ranking, and that just kind of refers back to whether it's worthwhile to actually implement traffic calming or not. I think the entire length of the street that we studied, I believe, is really a good candidate for it. So how do we slow people down? Well, the primary device here are humps. Humps, not a bump. Okay, a bump in a parking lot is only about 2 to 3 feet long. Humps are much longer. Many of them aren't quite as high as a speed bump. You never want to put a speed bump on a public road. Speed humps, though, have been around, at least in this country, for 30, 35 years now. And there was a number of different ways to do it. Down south, a county in Georgia and a county in Florida both developed two of these humps. They're 22 feet long. When I say long, it's along the longitudinal line of the road. And one of them has a parabolic or curved approach to it. They're both flat on top. The problem with these types of humps are, and a couple communities installed them, one took them all out, they just weren't that effective at slowing traffic down. And they could be comfortably traversed at 25 miles per hour. They are pretty, 6 feet sounds like pretty short distance, but really you're only going up 3 inches or a little over 3.5 inches to get to there. So they really aren't all that effective at slowing traffic below, say, 25. Well, the speed limit's 25, and I'm sure many vehicles can traverse it probably 30 up to 35 miles per hour. The second type of hump is this wet speed hump. These are actually developed in the United Kingdom. They're only 12 feet long. They're a lot shorter. They can be 3 to 4 inches in height. The ones we spec, I always spec the 4-inch high hump. These are very effective. I mean, they will slow traffic pretty much 15 miles per hour. You got to traverse them at 15 miles per hour. One of the reasons they are very effective, again, it's curved, parabolic profile. First inch of that hump, you go up over an inch. So you're hitting it, you got to really slow down. These things are all marked, they're delineated, they got signs on them. So it's not like a motorist that's going to come up at night, not know it's there, unless you're really not paying attention and hit this thing at any rate of speed. We always spec that they get keyed into the pavement for reasons of, typically, they can be scraped up over time with snow plows in the winter time. So we always spec a keyway at both ends of them, so they're actually keyed in. They're bituminous, I should mention that, but they're asphalt, all put in wearing force and sealed on both ends. I got a slide in there about the delineation on these. This may seem like overkill. I mean, you've got chevrons, you've got transverse markings leading up to these. I'm sure if you've traveled in the city has installed, City of Pittsburgh has installed, I think in the first year they went 60, they got like another 60 going in. So there's many in the city now. So I think people are getting more and more used to them. The markings and signs and basically how you navigate these. Always, if you have a street, obviously, with curbs, you've got to leave a channel for the drainage, you've got to leave a gutter next to it. So they don't really extend curb to curb. There's really can't do it because of the drainage. They are held back a bit. There's an option a couple of my clients have chosen, and that is to do these recycled rubber humps, and they're modular. So what they are is you buy them. They're basically a lot of different sections that all fit together. They're put in with lag screws into the pavement, lag screws and bed washers. The benefit there, I guess, is that number one, you can remove them fairly easily. You can take them out in the wintertime. One municipality, they decided to lift them in the wintertime. Your public works people can put them down. They are pretty time consuming putting them down because there's probably a couple hundred lag screws holding these things down. So it's just an option. On the placement of the humps, there's a lot of criteria. I'm not going to go through all of them, but a lot of it's just common sense. Obviously, you don't want to put them on grades steeper than 8%. You're essentially creating a little ski jump there, so you don't want to do that. That's not necessarily a problem on this street. Sharp curves, not around sharp curves, not near stop signs, traffic signals, not even across from driveways. You have a lot of driveways on the street. You don't want to obviously put one strictly opposite the driveway. And we already talked about the drainage. So our recommendations are towards the back there. You can kind of see where we are. We think the best bang for the buck would be in installing these. So we got a couple. We have one in the 900 block. We got one in the 1000 block. They're roughly 800 feet apart. Moving further south, we've got another one around the 1200 block. We try to pick locations where you have a fairly tangent or straight section of road so motors can see these for a ways and not tuck them in around a sharp curve. Now, the southernmost two are actually in the county portion of the road. So any hump that would get installed there, obviously we need Elliott County approval to install those. They are the ones, we have one recommended here in the, or two in the 1300 block. So kind of in conclusion, we're recommending 5 of these Watts types humps. They would be 650 to 1,100 feet apart in the blocks. All the signs, markings that would need to go in. As an alternate, you may consider installing the temporary modular humps, just because you can pull them out easily if it's not either not working or you want to move them around or pull them up for snow plowing. You do have a situation out there, you have a stop sign in one direction. That's actually on the county portion of the street, right before a driveway. We just noticed it didn't have a stop bar, or on county traffic does not stop sign under it. That's kind of an aside, because that's not necessarily traffic calming, but this is something we noticed. So, slide after that, I think I already talked about temporary speed humps. So costs. Typically, a lot of my clients, they like putting them in when they do have a resurfacing program going in, because contractor's already out there, you're doing other plans, he's already putting typically wearing course down, and he usually has tack coat, he has everything going. They have templates for these now. That's your most economical option, because the bids have been coming in on these about $3,500 per hump. It's probably up to around $2,000 per hump now. If you don't do it that way and you do standalone, as I say, in other words, no other resurfacing going on the street, you pretty much double the cost. Because obviously they got to mobilize, they got to bring material out, etc., construct these things. Recycled rubber humps, just 2 years ago we had some installed and they were in the $4,500 range, but that did not include, that's delivered to your public works garage. So the particular company these came from was up in New York State. They were delivered. They're fairly heavy, I'll just say, because it's a large, a lot of material there. Did not include the labor, obviously. The same public works, your public works folks would put them down, signs or the approach markings to it. And then just kind of wrapping it up, we typically do after studies to see how effective they were. So what we'll do is, once they've been installed for a while, go back, I collect some data again. We'll set our machines pretty much midway between humps, see if it's really been effective at what you're trying to do here, slow traffic down. That's pretty much all I got. Be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question for you. What is the cost of the study alone?
This study, I think was right around $10,000.
So the study is $10,000.
Yeah.
And are you required to have a study to put a speed hump?
Not required, but it's always a good idea, because number one, you're going to get some pushback on these. Every single case, I mean, some residents will say, why are you doing that? Why are you doing any sort of traffic calming? Because they're going to go out, it's going to inconvenience people who live on the street. We always find they're about 50-50. You get 50% in favor of it, 50% don't like them at all. But it's always good to have a study, because you can say, well, here's the reason why. Just like I said, you've got cars going 67 miles an hour. You've got cars that it's 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. I mean, it seems to make a lot of sense. We've never decided to, I'll say, initiate this idea. It seemed to make a lot of sense on the street. So, that's what I tell a lot of my municipal clients is, if you have a study, you're not just putting these out willy-nilly and decide, well, we think one should go here, but how do you know, is that a good location or not? So it's pretty much the purpose of the study.
Chief, could you do a study?
Not as good as, what he did, we could use those radar signs.
You have the radar set up and you could conduct your own study.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have your data. We have your data. Yeah, it was they had a lot of data. We collected even more, and I think it pretty much substantiated your data.
Did you do any study, is there a lot of pedestrian traffic there?
Not much. I mean, there was some, there's what, the 440, I don't know what it is, 4 up there. So a little bit around it, so some down there, 837, but other than that, not a whole lot. A couple people crossing.
They're better near parks and stuff like that, where there's more pedestrian traffic,
So,
maybe softball field, baseball fields or something.
I was asking him a couple of questions
I'm
there,
sorry, I interrupted, sorry.
and it's okay, but that was where I was leading to.
Oh, okay, we were thinking alike then.
So, exactly, so $10,000 for a study is quite an added cost to the speed, what do you call it?
Pumps.
No, you call it this traffic calming.
Calming, yeah, traffic calming.
Calming,
Yeah.
so, yeah, traffic calming. So, say, for instance, we had Roberta Drive, and the residents on Roberta Drive came in here one night and said, doggone it, we are fed up with these speeders on our street. And the chief puts his own traffic signals up there, and he says, you know what, you're right, these people are really going fast on this street. So, indeed, we don't need to do a traffic calming study. We could do our own traffic calming study, correct?
Yeah, one thing I would recommend going into that though is have a policy. And we found this in many municipalities. The reason I say that is just like you mentioned another street. So these folks will come in and they'll say, well, we want what they have, but maybe it's not really justified on their street. So a lot of times, we've written policies for municipalities that say, hey, look, you have to be 10 miles per hour over. You have to, and this is just one problem. Other problems we encounter in cut-through traffic. You have people cutting through a neighborhood, how do you discourage that? So there's other devices you can put in to do that. But again, how do you quantify it? A lot of times we'll do volume counts out there that shows that street must not have any cut-through traffic because we know in advance how many people live on that street and what the volume would be just for the people living on the street, and that's all we end up with.
Well, that's the example I was speaking of, Roberta Drive. People who lived on that street, there might be, 30 houses on the street, but it was a cut-through street. The people wanted to make it a dead end and block the street off so no one could even go down there. So when the traffic calming goes on Ravine Street, the next thing we're gonna hear is, we wanna have traffic calming on my street. And then where do you start, and what you, like you said, that is a good thing that you should have prerequisites before you just go ahead and do that. That's why the $10,000 calming study added to the, if you're at $5,000 a speed hump times 6, that's, 30,000, you're at $40,000. So, just something to think about, that's all, on what we do and how things are done. That's all I was trying to ask about. If the law states to put these in place, do we have to have a second party come and do the study?
Some municipalities do it themselves. The city's obviously doing a lot of that themselves, but they have some resources to do that. A lot of municipalities they don't have the resources. They would rather have someone on board. The policy is a good idea just to initiate the process. Some municipalities require a petition signed by so many people who live on that street. So it's not just one person coming in saying, oh, we have a problem, you got to fix it. Okay, well, prove it. We want to see that petition, how many people signed it, and a lot of them require 10%, 20% of people who live on the street to actually, before they'll even do anything. Now, some require a small fee to file that, and others feel they should not charge a fee to initiate the process. But
Any other questions, council? Open the floor up to you all. Richard?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I have a question. Being that the two of those were following a county road, would the county have requested the study?
yeah, you would need to send this to them before, obviously, you could do anything.
Okay.
And I'm guessing it's going to require county occupancy, have occupancy permit to do it. They're going to want to see plans. I mean, what I show in here is detailed enough, but I don't think you just want to give that to a contractor and say, go out and build them.
Right.
I mean, we have more details than that.
Yeah, Dave has been in contact with the county, and they're looking into possibly what the cost would be if they installed them for the borough, at a reduced cost, if they could do that.
That would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, certainly. Even, and on the borough portion, you're saying as well?
Their portion and the borough portion, yeah.
Okay.
They would obviously do their own out of pocket.
Thank you. If you have nothing else, we thank
Yeah,
you for
thank
your,
you.
your presentation.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to our agenda. Registered presentations are over. Public comments. Any public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person, must avoid references of personalities and personnel-related issues. So any public comments? Please stand up.
Bill Hanna, 138 Carl Drive. Act 152 deadline is on Friday this week for demolition. How many houses have we put up on the list?
I believe
There's 6 houses, I can name them real quick, 2526 Harrison Street.
So you have 6, and the paperwork's completed? Turned in.
It'll be done Friday. Yeah, the grant writer's working on it.
Okay.
I just need to get him a cost estimate and he's done the rest.
The grant writer's turning it in?
Yes.
6 properties. From the discussion of the land bank, I thought this presentation was a little more thorough than the last one that we had. I think it does require some serious consideration. I have been told that since Homestead and West Homestead County, 7 Homestead properties were bought and 3 in West Homestead. So when you have the discussions with her, you know, ask more questions because they seem to be moving down the right track, and that's in the period of 1 year. Food for thought. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm Brad Trigo from 1332 Margaret Street. My question would just be, what does the process look like for that, now knowing that the deadline for that decision is going to be October 17th by their board meeting? I know that probably feels a little rushed, and I'm not sure if that leaves another Munhall council meeting to determine that. I don't know if that means it needs to be decided by this upcoming week. And I'm sure the solicitor would need to be involved as well.
I think the borough manager needs to look at it, look at all the, you know, the ins and outs.
The timeline would be thus, but basically by next council meeting, I need to have how much it would cost the borough for the annual fee, and then maybe a list of also properties that talk with him about what properties might be interested in her, just to get an idea of what we're looking at, and then I'll review the actual agreement, cooperation agreement with all municipalities in the county. Basically to fit it for October 17th, so there's one council meeting before their meeting, 2 days before. So we would have to approve, council would have to approve this next council meeting and then allow 30 days for comment before adopting the ordinance. So to adopt the ordinance officially on the October meeting, that's the timeline.
Okay.
But I'll have more information for the council to make a better decision next week.
Great. And then my second question was just a follow-up on a request I had made earlier about the planning commission. Do we have a published list of members that are part of the planning commission at this point? I know there was a discussion a few meetings ago.
We do, and I forwarded all that information to the head of the planning commission. So he'll get back to you as soon as he can.
Great. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. If there are no other questions, we'll move on to standing committee reports. The finance chairman is not here. Would you like to speak on anything about finances, Dave?
A couple things, just high-end stuff. I'm still looking at the previous several budgets to determine the best budget for this coming year. We have a pension audit coming up this year to review all the pensions and get basically approval from the state that we're doing okay. And then, those are the two big things I'm focused on right now.
So have you looked into further where we're at in this present budget? Are we running?
We're over budget.
Okay.
And I think that has to do with optimistic budget from the previous year. And I basically need to go back several years and look at the trends to really come up with a good number for this next year. There's nothing we can do about it for this year. I would say we need to be a little cautious in spending moving forward for a bit, and to have a better handle on where we're looking for the next several years.
So should I ask you how far behind we are, or do we want to, do you have?
Well, I don't have a good number because the way the reports were from bookminders wasn't giving me the full picture, so I have a new way of her presenting the numbers to me, which lets me analyze it a little better. So I will have a much better answer for you next week.
Okay. All right, because you and I had talked and we weren't sure, at that time you still weren't sure, and we were looking at, the deficit of a decent amount of money.
Yeah, well, just quickly looking at the budget versus actual for 2024 through August, we are over budget by basically we've spent 81% of the money for the budget, and we're only 66% of the way through the year.
Okay. Okay. All right then. We'll move on to Public Works. Thank you, David. David? Robert?
You have a meeting this morning.
Okay. So I just have a couple questions on, I've been hearing this and that about the new electric garbage trucks and the storage of the garbage trucks, and we need to build another building for the garbage trucks, and I hear we don't have to have another building for the garbage trucks. They have to be stored outside in the open air, they have to be stored inside garage. Any information on that you know of, Bob?
I could ask the salesman. He never said it had to be inside.
Okay.
So I don't know if it has to be inside.
Okay, because that was a major question, and then secondly, I heard that we are going to have a charging station, but I was told that the charging station was going to be brought up from the valley down below on Forest Avenue and brought up to the building area back here. But now I'm understanding that plan may have changed. Do we have any information on any of that? And maybe this isn't a question for the engineer, more so than anyone. So I don't know where this is all coming from.
The
but
last
this,
I recall, Seth was working with somebody, Duquesne Light related program, to have them install a charging station.
and I believe it was in the back.
Yeah.
So, okay. We have no information on it. Chief?
I can only, if you don't mind, I'll interject a little bit
No,
on the electric vehicles.
It's a question.
We just finished another class for these electric vehicles. Though there's no ordinance or anything in place, as the fire department, we would recommend that they are charged away from other combustible items. The likelihood of something happening is nil. They're just as dangerous as a gasoline car, except we can put the gasoline car out. If those batteries go into a thermal runaway, we have to let it burn. We can't put them out. We had that car fire on Woodhill a few weeks ago, and that was a gas hybrid. Went to the frame.
Wow.
And even that, it still has to be stored in the tow pound for 72 hours with nothing around it, because they can still reignite. So, just something to consider. Like whenever a resident asks us for their electric vehicle for something, we recommend they charge it in the driveway. That car goes into thermal runway inside the garage, inside the house. You know, there's not much we can do. At least if it's out in the driveway, we can do our best to protect the house kind of thing. You know, like I said, they're gonna be more prevalent. There are gonna be issues. You know what I mean? Just something to be aware of, that when you do place these and things like that, that, you know, be mindful of the surroundings that they're gonna be in.
Mayor?
I don't know, maybe David's not aware yet, but I think most of us are aware. West Mifflin has some electric vehicles, right? Would it be good maybe to talk to the manager in West Mifflin to see, you know, how he handles things?
They got all of their,
And you were involved in that, I
yeah,
think,
they got all their equipment funded through Duquesne Light.
That'd be good to know. Maybe
Wow.
that's the angle that Seth was looking
Yeah.
for too.
Well, I think that they're supposed to put in a transformer, the Duquesne Light is supposed to put in a transformer to cover that charging load. But I don't know how the power is getting from there to the charging station. So there, I want to say, and Dave, if you look into things,
Yeah.
there's got to be some kind of file somewhere that he was working with some outside company, local company that was.
I believe it was coming up the hillside into a station back there.
Yeah, but there was another, I don't know if it was like a grant program through Carnegie Mellon or something of that nature. But there was some.
It was a big grant that we got all the
Yeah,
money.
there was some program that he was working with that was gonna supply the charging stations and the labor to install them.
You're correct.
It was through Volkswagen settlement from the state. That's where the money came from.
Okay.
But I have a contact number of somebody to talk to actually get the more details about the grant, because the other consideration is at some point the batteries are gonna fail in these vehicles, and we'll be at a point where we will need more garbage trucks. Unfortunately, probably at one time. You were saying that the shell of the truck is the same, and you just put on top of a diesel engine, right?
Yeah.
But I gotta check with the state to see what the time frame is on how long we have to hold on to these before we can repurpose them.
Okay.
So all these things, I'm trying to get more information on.
Thank, I didn't, you know, this just came up as a conversation, so I'm not putting anyone on the spot, it's just information that is on my mind.
Yeah, Dave, if you need to talk to Brian Kamoff from West Brooklyn, he knows all about electric.
Good.
They've been doing this, they got it about a year ago, I think they got it.
Yeah.
Right?
They got their garbage trucks and public works vehicles, I think, through a grant through the state. So they $400,000, here, buy a garbage truck. And I think that they had to actually destroy the old one.
That's what has to happen for this one.
Yeah.
The price sounds so good, which is naturally appealing to everybody, but at the same time, when the facts come out, like about the fire, you know, the little word if, they would catch on. We need to also be prepared for that, so I think Glenn for saying some of that.
Okay, anything else, Bob? Okay. All right, Parks and Recreation, Rainey?
We did have a meeting on Tuesday, September 3rd. Unfortunately, my normal meeting is on Monday. However, that was Labor Day, so we couldn't do it then. So we had it on Tuesday, and Kevin and I left the meeting for the blighted properties came down here. Unfortunately, nobody was here, but I still would like to report that in previous months, we heard from Michael Stickle, who is the young man who is earning his Eagle Scout Award up on Main Street at the Ronald Watkins Parkland. He is having his Eagle Scout Award recognition on September 29th. It's a Sunday at 4 o'clock. So if anybody wants to go up and be there for him, that's wonderful. Also, another scout, Brian Hyland, has started his Eagle Scout Award down at Kennedy Park. He's already started to paint the light post. I was going to ask, because of the fact that in our notes we have that one person asked about putting in a free library down at Woodhill.
I have that information, Mom emailed
Okay,
it
you
to
can
me.
share with us then, because I was gonna say, do we have any details?
Yes.
That's my report, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Can I add a couple things on recreation, a couple of things that I know that's coming up, and we might as well jump on them now. This Saturday, I'll try to do them in order. Roberto Clemente Youth Clinic is up here. They will be up here, I think, at 8:30 to 11:30. It's really a good program. It's free to the kids. They do have a sign up though, so it may not be too late to sign up yet. The other thing I'm gonna jump on is, the Halloween parade is coming up. I know they're gonna be, asking for a borough donation. In the past, we've given $2,500. It's a Still Valley, not a Still Valley, a Munhall tradition. So the Halloween parade, and, I think there'll be a request coming in. I think the woman that ran it for years, Lori, of course, he's still helping out with it, and I think she's gonna be writing a request for the 2,500
She's
for
gonna
that.
be requesting it.
Lori
We
is,
met
right?
with her the other night. She's gonna be
Right.
requesting it from the borough.
Other things, one of the things that I always hear about is recreation. There's no recreation in the borough for kids. There's no recreation for adults. I see this on my site a lot. I know there's something, but this would definitely, I think, would have to seek grants and land for it. And I think, Rick, you saw it on my website too. People were interested in skate parks, and I said, well, skate parks are fine for the young, but we need something for the adults too.
Yep.
Maybe a pickleball, and maybe, we have that land down on,
The
in the
waterfront.
waterfront, but I think that would definitely, stuff like that would have to come from grants.
Or corporations.
Or corporations,
That's what I'm
Or
hoping
US
is
Steel
gonna
or
happen.
whoever.
Exactly.
And I'm giving like a little report here. The Michael Stickle thing, we already handled this, I had that on my thing. And the Munhall Cares is going fine. They have a meeting on September 30th, and it's a public meeting, right? For the public.
Yeah.
It's already scheduled for here for the building, and we're doing, there's a lot of things coming up here. We got other than the Halloween parade, we have the Small Business Saturday coming up after Thanksgiving, and we're gonna continue the Main Street Business Decorating Contest. And maybe even, if all the lights are working well, try to get a few more community groups to do trees up there this year. So that I just wanted to go with the recreation bunch. If you don't mind, that's what I figured I'd throw some of that in now.
The more the merrier. Thank you.
Let me follow up real quick, Mayor.
Yes,
I did speak with Lori this afternoon.
Oh, did
She
you?
was saying, she asked you about 2,500. What would be the procedure? Is that just, since it's in the budget, just go ahead and authorize that, or do you want to vote on it next week?
I believe we have it in the budget, but I'm not
It is in the
positive.
budget, yes.
It
I
is?
I think you should just authorize it then
Okay.
myself.
That's another procedure here.
Yeah,
All right.
if it's in there.
It is in there, yes.
All right. So I wanted to move back to Public Works again, just for one thing, and I omitted asking you all. Before, when Seth was still here, we had met about talking, and we met with the people on Main Street about taking these metal grates away and putting some mulch in there, and some of them are a tripping hazard, and I know that we all started looking through there. Is it possible for you to do that? Can you get on a free Friday to take a couple men and go up Main Street, get a pickup, a dump truck filled with mulch, and go up Main Street and pull the bad ones out and mulch them and make them safer for people not to walk on? Can you do that for us?
Yeah, we can do that.
Council, do you agree on that? I mean, I think we talked about this and nothing's really transpired about it. I mean, it's been a long time coming since we've had a borough manager, and so I think let's start there, okay?
I think the Main Street Business Meeting I've seen advertised is September 19th, I believe, next Thursday. So I know a lot of the issues come up there, I know one of them is the lighting, of course, again, and.
Well, the lights have been repaired. We got Cristaldi up on Main Street. He's repaired the Main Street lighting, I believe. There may still be one or two that's out, but most of them have been repaired. Is that correct, Bob?
Yeah, there's a couple of,
Couple.
I was just reading the thing, and I guess, is there still some dead trees up there? I hadn't paid attention to much.
Not sure.
That's what the guy that wrote the thing said, there's some dead trees. I know I got one time about in front of Savolsky's, there was a dead tree that they wanted gone. I don't know if it was ever removed or not.
Anyway, I want to move forward to the Community and Property Committee. Mr. Youngkin, do you have anything to say?
You there, Dave?
Yeah, I'm there. I don't have nothing planned on vacation. I'm getting ready to board a plane. I gotta go.
Don't be late to get back.
I will fill in for Dave because I'm on the committee and I did attend the meeting. And it was a very productive meeting. A lot of residents showed up. We had a full committee there. Ms. Fry, myself, and Mr. Youngkins. It was our first meeting of the year. Mr. Youngkins is the chairman of that committee. Again, we met, we talked about the delinquent properties and processes, and we're going to talk about some of that a little bit later in the meeting, about ways that we can do blighted property and fight blighted property. Certainly, Ann Lewis and the COG is one tool. And I'm listening to her, and I certainly agree with a lot that she says. I question if the borough can do the same thing ourselves. I wonder what the cost is to do that from her part, you know, what it costs to actually do all that stuff. We have some other things on the agenda, so I'll be interested to hear about that a little bit later in the meeting. But again, we did talk about the 6 properties that were needed to be put on the demolition list with the county. So that was all discussed and all worked over. Dave Cannon was there. So it was, and David Ty was there. He talked about a company that actually tears buildings down piecemeal by piecemeal. They recycle the bricks, the wood. And I told him I was very interested in that. I don't know how far he's moved along with that conversation yet. But Dave's been very busy. He's in his 2nd or 3rd week here, is it now, Dave?
This is the beginning of 3rd week.
Yeah, so he's got a lot going on, and there's certainly no pressure on my part. So we'll move on to code enforcement.
You have a copy of my report. I issued 14 building permits, did 18 inspections, occupancy inspections, sent out 15 code letters, 15 lien letters, I'm sorry, and code enforcement, 10 for weeds, 17 for garbage, 3 for roof repair, and 1 for abandoned vehicle. Also had 4 court hearings, 4 that were continued and 4 were removed. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Dave? Okay, no questions for Dave. Let's move on to
Typo of my fault.
Public Works. I already have them twice. That's what got me going there. How about the engineer?
You have my full report next week, but I just wanted to mention that I talked to the contractor with the low bidder of Creek Street.
Yes.
And he was agreeable to holding his bid price for the next couple of months anyways. Being that the GDTF funding award does not come out until January 6th, there may be a little escalation due to material cost, but otherwise he's agreed to keep it.
Can you ask him if that process can be done in phases, if it can be done in 1 year and then finished in the next year?
I could ask him.
I'm just curious if it can be. I don't know. And if we get all the funding at one time,
yeah,
hallelujah. But what if we don't?
Right. But we kind of touched on that and kind of agreed that it was one or done.
It is?
The problem you're going to run into is having them come in and come out twice. So you're going to escalate the cost there, mobilization wise.
Okay. That was just a question I had. anything else you'd like to talk about? How is the hillside holding up there?
So far so good, it hasn't moved, there's a lot of growth growing on it right now.
That's good.
A lot of weeds mostly, but it hasn't moved. Still seeing some erosion during storm events, but nothing that's sliding.
Okay.
Paving, moving along, I think they're done. We've got some complaints here and there.
I've heard of a couple,
A few.
I think they still need to put some curb on Scotia, some curb on, Ridgeway. Where?
That parking lot and the wall.
The wall, yeah.
The wall.
I looked at the raised wall this morning and, it looks like it just can be cleaned off.
Okay.
They had common sense not to tar the wall, which is a good thing.
I saw it, I looked at it as well. Okay, fire chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. You have a copy of my report. Briefly, we had 54 calls in August, 32 in town, 22 mutual aid requests. When our average response time from dispatch to being en route was 4 minutes and 13 seconds, and to getting on scene was 6 minutes and 49 seconds. We have a couple classes getting ready to be ongoing. We have an elevator rescue class starting tomorrow. We also have a structural building collapse class coming on in 2 weeks. And just to reiterate what Bernie asked me last month, just want to remind that we have our request in to have the truck fund donation issued. So that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Any questions for the fire chief? Okay, where are you conducting the elevator rescue training at?
We're going to be doing both buildings. We're going to be doing here and the old Borough building. Not going to be anything extensive, but there are two different types of elevators, which makes for a better class. But it's going to be more or less, teaching how to rappel down the shaft in certain cases, the proper procedures for the elevator. It's a 3-day class, so we're going to be doing everything to, properly jacking up the elevator if need be, or doing what we have to do, but it should be a good one.
Awesome. So there will be no firing inferno or firing?
No, and we won't be destroying anything.
Okay. All right, thank you, chief. I was curious about that. Police chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. Council has a copy of my report. For the month of August, we responded to 70 calls for service. We made 41 arrests, had 61 traffic stops, and issued 49 traffic citations. Officers worked 104 hours of extra details, 62 hours of regular overtime, and 87 hours of court time. Munhall Police Department is a member of the South Hills DUI Task Force. Officers Miller and Kuntz were assigned to work a DUI checkpoint in Brentwood on August 23rd. I do not have the results of their work for that night. Training, Officer Fonawas completed a 5-day school resource officer certification. The crossing guard post at Marion and West Run Road needs to be filled. I interviewed 2 applicants today, Sharon Grace and Judy Bahola. Their information's on the second page of my packet for council's approval and decision on who to hire. Both could start immediately, and we need one for that post, and the other one would agree to be a fill-in if we need a second crossing guard. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, chief. Borough Manager?
A couple things. I spoke with the grant writer, Dan, and he submitted the GEDTF grant last week with all the necessary authorizations for the Creek Street repair. That grant was submitted for $500,000. The amount of money they have available is about $120 for this year, I think, to give out.
No, that was, the conservation.
Oh, that's a conservation, that's a different one.
Yeah.
Okay, so two different grants. So there's still, the grant writer and the engineer are working on getting funding for it. It's a $500,000 project.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a thing that probably just needs to get done, no matter what we get. That's just gonna be a tough call. I got a call today from the County Economic Development Authority, or whatever organization. And we have not executed an agreement yet with them for $75,000 for the Main Street redevelopment project, streetscape. That is I believe, $1 million project. I spoke with Dan, he said we have $175,000 committed.
Right.
Total.
So far.
So far. Now, the person at the Economic Development said that $75,000 is really more of a funding gap. Usually it's what you put on the very end to complete the project. So there's still some time to extend that, but eventually the county will want us to commit to it or say we don't want it at some point. So I'll extend that for as long as we can, but we need to look at other funding options or reduce the scope considerably on that project.
Or spend the $175,000 into what we can use it for.
Yeah, we might be able to, the
We have-
100,000, we might be able to, the other sources, I don't remember what the other source is, we might be able to put that into the Creek Street problem. And the 75,000, I don't know, we might have to figure out another use for that. So,
I think the long-term goal was to try to get a couple more grants to not do the whole thing, but a good chunk of it that would make sense.
Right. The main heart of the business district would be the place to start right there, I would think.
so we need to update the scope of work with the county if we want to reduce, basically to match the 75,000.
So we have $175,000 already acquired for the Main Street
Yeah.
project.
Yep.
What's the 75,000?
No, that's.
That's included in the
Yeah.
175.
Mhm.
So there's 100,000 from one entity, 75 from another entity.
Yep.
I see. Okay.
So, it's
Well,
almost 20%.
yeah, so do we have any idea if we'll be awarded any more money on these grants? Is it looking like?
I'm not sure, these were submitted in 2023, so I don't know. I'll talk with Dan and see what other options we might have.
Okay.
Yeah, see what else is coming out.
The LSA grant is just been released,
Yeah.
the opening for that. So that's due in November. So we need to, council needs to figure out what it wants to apply for.
Okay.
That's up to $1 million.
Yeah,
Maybe we should apply there for that money, for Main Street.
maybe.
Or-
I guess whatever, council can think about what they really want to focus on.
So Creek Street, the money won't be awarded until early January.
Oh, the money won't be awarded until, because we're waiting on the LSA for this year still, right? That's gonna be announced next month, October?
Yes.
So that'll be next October,
Okay.
Yeah,
roughly.
Yeah.
So it's like a year out.
Did we apply for any for this
What did we
year?
apply for that one?
For this year?
LSA?
For this year, nothing yet.
Oh, but for the one that's gonna be announced next month.
I have no idea.
Okay,
I wasn't here then.
okay, I'll find out. I think we applied for something because why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you, is right.
Dan's usually on top of the grant, so I'll find out what we applied for.
All right. All right, so
So that's that. Yeah, I hope to have a draft of the budget done by the end of this month
okay.
to present to council at the next workshop.
The LSA is open to what, the November 30th?
15th?
I mean, it's open till the 30th of November though?
No, not November 15th.
Oh, 15th.
I think 15th.
Yeah, I was just looking at the thing from Senator Bruce.
Okay, well, I'm sure that's correct. I thought it was 15th.
Yeah, I'm seeing the 30th here.
That's
Double check me though.
No,
I think I sent it
I'm
over
sure
to you.
Brewster has it right.
Did you give it two though, right? Because I sent it over to you.
Yeah, I got it,
Okay,
I got it,
'cause
yeah.
Because that
Yeah, that's the one that's the one we're
Getting
talking
to
about.
you. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it for now, except for the other thing we'll talk about, I can fill in.
All right, absolutely, absolutely. Just join right in because we're going to need you. All right, so thank you, David, for your report. We're going to move on for items of consideration for our regular meeting. the 2024 MMO authorization. You want to speak on that, Dave?
Yeah, it's due, I think at the end of this month, we have to basically authorize, I don't have the exact number on me, but I'll talk to Sue Trout about it. But it's the money we have to commit to spend for our pensions.
Right, right.
It's just an annual thing. I'll get you the exact numbers.
Okay. And Act 49 update, what is Act 49?
Act 49 is the part-time police buy-in to the pension. Do you want to add that? Because I don't know so much of the details.
It's basically like buying back military time. You can buy up to 5 years. Sue Trell would have to come up with a rate of what the officer would have to contribute. So say you have over 20 years and you want to buy back 5 years of your part-time service, there's a calculation that the officer would have to pay that amount of money, and then he get 5 years credited for him to retire early.
The council would have to approve that, whether they want to pursue that and what time frame. Like, you want to just open it up now and that's it, or as needed. But the council would have to act to implement that policy. You can also, there's all sorts of ways you can do it. You can renegotiate the police contract, include it in there. So there's some options the council would need to figure out what we're going to do.
Okay.
So I will get some more information about it, and I don't know if there's a time frame that they can do it.
You can do it anytime.
So just so you guys are aware of it, we can talk about it more at the actual meeting next week. I'll give you some more information about it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any officers that would be able to do that?
Three,
There's,
I think three is what.
3 or 5, and I know one is very interested in doing it.
Yeah. Okay. So 3 to 5 may be able to take use of that Act 49.
The thing about it is, it basically, it benefits the officer, of course, and it's good for morale and retention.
Right.
It doesn't cost the borough directly, it costs the pension.
Oh.
So that's always a concern, but we also are at 114%.
104.
104%. So our pension is well funded.
Right. Right.
So that's the only consideration. It affects the pension, doesn't affect the borough's finances.
All right, very good. All right, motion to update zoning in the R2 to be able to change buildings to designated apartments. Can you speak on that, Dave, a little bit? Because I question what this is.
Yeah, that's, in the R2 area, there was the old St. Rita's Church, or Skull and Church, or Skull and Rectory, that Mr. Wiggs just purchased, and he wants to put apartments in there. So as of right now, you're not permitted to have apartments in the R2 area. So the planning committee met, listened to him, what he had to say, and it was their recommendation that we would change the ordinance for the R2 areas for any buildings like churches, rectories, school buildings, old school buildings could be turned into apartment buildings as long as they have one space per each unit.
One, what space?
I'm sorry, parking space.
Parking space.
And where is the parking lot for that church?
On the left hand, well, it's right to the left of the school.
Behind it.
Yeah, kind of like off to the left, kind of. So that was their recommendation, because there's really nothing else you can do with these older buildings, like that size.
Will this affect any other areas that are R2?
There's the only other places where we really have, we have the park, the park school, if that would close down. The old,
That's R2? Or that's just school?
No, that's actually might be in business. It might be in the business area up there. I'd have to look. I'd have to look at that one.
Could you get us a map and show us at the next meeting what this would mean?
Okay,
yeah. If it would affect any other areas that the neighborhoods may not appreciate.
For R2 areas?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware, but I'll look into that.
That's my only concern.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few in the R1 area. Like on the 10th Avenue, there's several churches down there, old schools. That would be the only other area, but that's an R1 area. So you would have to, if you just wanted to change R2 now, and if in the future maybe consider R1, doing the same thing down there. But I'll look into R2. But I don't think there's any other buildings that would be affected.
All right. That would be good. I think we need to be aware of what we're voting on.
Well, you know what, I'm thinking the old, if they ever sold the, old number 3 firehouse, something like that, building like that.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll look.
Please look at that a little closer for us.
Mhm.
Okay, changes in tax forgiveness to encourage businesses to come into the borough of Munhall. I'm not sure how this was put on into the agenda, but,
Mr. Youngkins was gonna speak on it,
okay.
and, I don't have the specifics, so I think we can, we'll discuss it maybe the next workshop.
Okay.
When he's here, and then we can,
All right. I thought maybe you'd put that on.
did not.
Okay.
It was mentioned at the lake meeting briefly.
Okay. This conversation goes back to a little bit of the conversation that we had about Homestead and how the properties were being sold and all the ways that they can be transferred. So we do need to do some work on that. All right, handicap parking space in front of 811 East 11th Avenue. That's been approved, Chief?
Yes.
Okay.
The approved paperwork's in your packet.
What's that?
The approved paperwork's in your packet.
Okay. All right, Munhall Cares would like to know what council wants and needs as far as a contract. Also, Katie Whitney is interested in renting the bottom floor of the old Borough building and what the rental fee would be. So let's go with Munhall Cares first and talk about the garages, because that's what we're talking about.
The garage is actually One Valley Free Store, but the Cares.
Pardon me?
The garage was sectioned off for One Valley Free Store, which we are separate from Munhall Cares. Munhall Cares requested also just an office space, if you will, and also to have a permanent address for our organization.
Well, maybe we didn't realize that Munhall Cares and
The
what's
One
the other?
Valley Free Store separate.
Are separate entities, because we were feeling that you guys could go in and take the garage over, do that area, and then move forward on to other things. So I was not aware that there were two separate entities into that. And then, secondly, when we talk about a contract, we just want to
No,
make sure.
I don't know, I don't even know why it says contract. in
But I
there.
want to have a contract,
Huh?
because I would like to have a contract.
So when we talked in the one meeting, I said, let us know what you need and.
Well, I think council is willing to let you use the garage.
Right.
We don't need money monetarily, but we still should have some sort of a contract stating that we're not liable if someone falls in there or someone's hurt. And we need our solicitor to make something as a binding agreement stating that this is gonna happen.
I have a lease already with the current position, the current location of where the free store is, and that's, from my understanding, that there would be another lease drawn up in
Right.
addition to whatever the cost is for the room, with the understanding that we're a nonprofit, we don't really pull in our own money. But whatever that contracted rate is, so that we also understand. So I can speak for that. And then also for Munhall Cares, obviously it would be a lease, we would assume as well. General liability policy would cover the building, which we would own and execute.
Good, and that's
You
what
would be the landlord for the town.
that's my concern. So, that being said, you also want a little office space?
Just one of the offices would be to keep all our stuff in one place.
Like
We
the old
have
chief's office,
signs.
maybe, or something like that.
So I was thinking maybe the mayor's office.
The mayor's office would be fine too.
That would be
So,
fine.
what is your interest in the rest of the building, rest of the first floor?
This is
Could you speak
completely
on that?
separate from any
Right.
of the nonprofits. This is for my own business entity to expand my own practice,
Okay, and you need the whole first floor?
even the second.
Well,
Depending upon what the rate of the lease would be.
okay,
I think you were interested more like in the, well, not second floor too, but the borough office, where the borough office used to be, right, Katie?
Council chambers as well.
In council chambers upstairs.
But ideally, just to see what the rates are.
Well, we would have to discuss that. I mean, that's not something that I would say, hey, we're gonna negotiate this is what it's gonna be. That's something that council has to decide on.
Sure.
What would you use the building for?
I own a private practice and I'm looking to expand. In addition, this is Megan, she owns Black Hat Yoga. She was also looking to collaborate and then expand the yoga practice as well.
So there's two separate people, yoga practice, and what's your practice?
Outpatient mental health. I own Stowe Valley Wellness Group on Main Street.
Okay.
I mean, you guys wanna keep the building, so there you go.
And the understanding is that this building is costing, and that you can't finish it. So if that building has been deemed safe by the engineer's report, the environmental report, then I'd love to try to see what's feasible and to expand.
I'm all in for you guys coming and using that. We need to just make sure we do things properly.
Sure.
We need to know what you want and what you want to do in there. And we want to make sure that you're safe in there for sure, absolutely. So, I think what you should do is, get an idea of what you want to do there in a space between both of you. And talk with David about maybe getting some sort of a contract set up, and council can decide on what we want to charge as far as a lease with you.
We already know, and that's, yeah, I know he's just started, but I've made a couple of calls to sit down with them, so we have our plan.
Well, good. Well, then please come in and give us the information, and council can get it, and we'll look at it, for sure. Okay?
Great.
Good.
Can we decorate it still?
Okay. And do you have anything else you'd like to say? I mean, about what?
Just to make that clear that we're grateful for the space for the free store and for CARES, and we understand that, even for the free store, that there's a fee. So just understand what that fee is for sure, so that we can do the fundraising efforts for that, and then.
Well, honestly, my first intention was for the free store in the garage was not to charge anything for the free store for, a period of time. I mean, we want them to.
I don't think we should charge them at all.
That's what I'm
It's our
saying.
business practice and everything else, I mean. we
So
can-
that was my intention.
For that.
Okay, I mean,
So-
we appreciate that, but we are.
But in the future, we can move forward if things go well and they want to do that, hallelujah. We're not looking to make money there off of the free store.
Okay.
Now, your ventures are something different. We're certainly willing to help you and be a helping hand there, and we're excited that you want to do this, so I'm all in. I don't know that you need the whole store, the whole building, but we can talk about that too.
We have big plans.
Okay,
There's
cool.
gonna be lots of them. I have
Good.
14 clinicians underneath me, and I need to hire approximately 5 more, so.
Okay.
We're out of space where we're at, that's our main location.
So
I
you
absolutely
need to
love
talk to
space.
us about the parking lots then that we have. That's a big thing that needs to be addressed as well.
Correct.
Okay, all right, good. I'm
Hey,
glad,
just
I'm
one-
glad you're here.
I just have one question, just confirm. Is the free store with Munhall CARES, or are they two
We're
separate
separated.
entities?
We're separate. We started off with the vision of having it all under one umbrella, but with different funding resources and such, it just made sense to be separate. So we're separate, 2 separate nonprofits.
2 separate bank accounts, 2
Separate board of
Two
both
separate boards,
nonprofit,
separate everything.
there's 2 separate accounts. And,
Awesome.
But then, they work hand in hand, though. I mean, they work very closely together. And, and having the free store up there brings it back to Munhall, which what I love. And there'll be a lot more things we can do, because they have outside, we have the old parking lot there.
Yep.
Where the police, parked.
Absolutely.
And,
A lot could be done
we're
there.
looking to bring a lot of things in there, like bringing, we talked about bringing, some food away, the people that need help, and we get some donations. We can have like some food up there, some like little, what do we call it, a food bank or whatever.
We've had an influx of single mother families, single mother out of household families, and elderly that are in desperate need.
It's a vision that started with Munhall CARES, and then it developed into the 2 groups.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Ashley, how do you pronounce her last name? Dreistad?
Dreistad.
That was pretty good.
So Ashley called me 2 weeks ago and asked me about putting a little free library at Woodhill Park. Her 5-year-old son is attending park school, and he wants to give back to the kids on Woodhill Drive. So he's gonna ask his class if everybody can donate 1 book, and she attached the proposed box. It's a library, it's 16 by 13 by 11. It's with a hinged door and a slanted roof, and it's placed on a 4x4 post approximately 4 feet high so the little kids can reach in and grab a book. So she's asking council if she can have your approval to put that up there.
I think it's awesome, so if council's in favor, I say
So she wrote me, she said,
hallelujah.
"Good afternoon, my son Rowan, who is 5 years old, would like to propose placing a little free library at Woodhill Park by the playground. We often visit the park on nights and weekends as we are residents of Woodhill and would love to share our love of reading with the neighborhood. He recently started a Park Elementary, and his hope is to ask his class to donate 1 book to get the little free library started."
So I think we're all in favor. So
I will call her
what we
tomorrow.
have to find out what they want to do, where do they want to place that?
They want to place it right next to the playground by the bench. So when, like, the moms or, like, the kids are running around.
So it won't get hit by cars and
Correct.
stuff. Yeah.
So it won't get hit by
Good.
cars and all that.
Cool, good, that's a good spot for it.
And Rowan's grandfather will supply everything, it's no cost to the borough.
Awesome, so we can vote on that and say yay, yay, yay. We're all in favor. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. So we're also on here is adopt an ordinance to join the Tri-Park Land Bank. David's gonna inform us and give us more information, and hopefully we can get something in by our meeting,
Yeah, next week you'll have
something.
as much information as I can get.
Yeah, and then we can decide.
Yeah.
All right? Okay. So we're gonna move on to old business. Councilwoman Fry would like to sell the furniture, cabinets, and excess office equipment from the old borough building. Any
Could
thoughts?
you use that?
If I may interject, I mean, if, depending upon the circumstances, I might be interested.
No.
Well, I don't, if we get the mayor's office, I mostly just need space to store the stuff. I don't need to.
What are you gonna sit on?
Well, they took, my desk was in there and it disappeared, so.
Yeah, I mean, like if we could get a desk with a chair, a file cabinet would be nice, but.
Yeah, the desk is gone.
That answers that.
It was a really nice
Question.
desk I had.
Yeah.
So we'll put that on hold for now, Rainey, because we'll see what is needed, all right? So, the next item up for new business, this is old business, new business, is a part-time police officer to fill in for the school resource officer and a better communication system with the school security guards. So I was not in this meeting in person, the last meeting, and I heard at the meeting that they have 2 security officers in Park School.
Correct.
I was not aware of that. Are they in contact with our police officers on the street?
I'm not sure about Park School, but the high school, middle school, that SRO has portable for the school. I'm not sure if Park School has one.
Do the security guards have a radio that they can contact the SRO officer or any Munhall police officer?
They can contact Munhall police officers, but I know for the middle school and high school, they can contact the SRO. I'm not sure about Park School, but I'll find out for you.
I think that will be important that they have that. And from our discussion that you and I had, you were thinking more that the part-time police officer would work with the other police officers in the field, and you would have an officer in the building. I thought that was your conversation, you and I.
Well,
That he would be the.
Officer Conowaz is certified to be an SRO, and he would be in Park School full-time.
Right, so then the part-timer would fill in on the schedule as you needed. Is that what I believe? That you and I, that was our conversation between you and I.
Well, I prefer to have a full-time officer other than the part-time officer, but if council doesn't, or, you know, if the borough is short on money or whatever, and can only do part-time, then it's better than nothing. I need another officer to put Pawnawas in there full-time.
So we're not gonna go over the schedule and ask you any scheduling things or not, we're not doing that. We're asking you, this has been brought up, I was not here at the last meeting. Other councilmen said they wanted a full-time officer, and we would love to have full-time officers, but where we're at in our budget, we need our borough manager to look at our budget and say where we're gonna be at. Are we gonna have to raise taxes next year to have a full-time officer there? And the way it looks now, we're running a deficit right now, so we may not have the funds to do that. And then we need to look at the contract where we're gonna be at next year so that we know where we're at. If I'm correct in thinking that way, you know, there's gonna be a raise next year for all the police department, every year, whatever that raise is. We need to know where we're at with that. And there are other things that we need to know as well, that come into play with hiring another full-time police officer. So what's the cost of a full-time police officer starting?
I think they start out at $68,000.
No, everything.
I don't know.
$120,000
I don't know that.
benefits. I think
It would depend on if they're married, if they have kids, for the health insurance.
100,000 might be a good
number.
average.
Okay, all right, just asking, that's all.
Chief, do they, is that 68,000 sort of patrolman starting at now?
I believe that's what it is.
I thought it was a little lower. No, I mean, I thought it was like 62 or something.
So I've talked with David, our borough manager, and I've asked him to really run the numbers and look at this so that we know where we're at and what we're doing and what we can afford and what if we are going to do that, we need to know what it's going to cost us to raise taxes if we have to raise taxes.
The school pays for the SRO officer.
Probably about half of the cost.
9 months.
9 months.
9 months.
9 months, but it's of the hours he works. He works a fully hour shift. And then does that cover the cost of the benefits as well? So if it's just a straight pay, then I would say it's about half of the cost.
Okay, so it covers half the cost. We budgeted this year for 2 full-time officers. We hired 2, but we lost an officer, the officer chair passing away. So we're still short 1. It was budgeted for it, you know, and now we don't want to hire it, and the kids, somebody needs to be in the school in this case. I don't care, I've said it a million times. The first day of school in Georgia, last week, there was a school shooting. The first day of school. It happens everywhere, it doesn't matter where you're at. You know, the school resource officers took down the assailant. I mean, we have to protect our kids.
I don't know that. I think it was the teacher. Oh, the teachers. The teachers all have, in that school, the teachers all have a card that they press a button and the police are notified immediately. We need to have something like that there too. And we need to have our security guys who are in there, they should have a radio that they can say, hey, there's a suspect in our building or looking into the building, that he should be able to call the police department immediately, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, them having a radio isn't gonna save a kid's life.
It sure as hell will.
Because I have a radio right now in my pocket. I can call the police, but there could still be a shooting right near, right now. I saw somebody, and the chief's not in there, he can't stop it.
No,
You're not gonna
someone
stop
could
it.
walk in right now and shoot
But
me. You're right.
The point is, we budgeted for 2, we lost officer chair. You know, we should still hire 1 more full-time. 100%.
I don't know if that's a true statement either.
How is it a true statement? We budgeted.
I don't know if we budgeted. I don't know if we did budget 2.
We budgeted for 2 officers.
We met and had a meeting, and if I remember correctly, we had a meeting, we were gonna hire 1 police officer, and we came to the consensus that we'll hire 2.
Yes. We actually hired 3.
We hired, yes, we hired 3.
One backed out.
We hired 3, somebody backed out, and we got stuck with 2.
I don't remember it that way. I don't remember us hiring 3.
Yeah, we did. We hired 1, 2, and 3, and 3 backed out. Number 3 backed out.
I mean, right now, we have a young guy that took our test, we really want him. We'd love to have him. You know, he's straight out of the academy. He's young, we can, you know, no bad habits.
Well, I don't know if we can afford it right now, honestly.
And the only
That's
other
why I
thing-
asked David to immediately start working on this.
If you do want to hire a part-time officer, it's in our police contract. And that hourly rate hasn't been changed in 20 years.
Okay?
So if you're gonna want to hire a part-timer, you're gonna have to open up the contract to make
Make
the,
it competitive.
yes.
Okay?
And I don't wanna knock any part-time help or workers who say they're not gonna be good, but the part-timers work not just in our borough, they're gonna be working in other towns too. And if they get a call and they gotta stay over in the town they're in, whether it be Turtle Creek or wherever, you know, and they're getting a chance to make a little extra money in that town overtime, they may, you know, say, hey, I'm gonna call off, I'm gonna stay over there.
And we're having a hard time just hiring full-time officers. I don't know how we're gonna get a part-time officer.
Mayor, you're sitting next to a part-time police officer.
One time, that, 1995 was a lot different than it is
Yes,
in
you are.
2024. I mean, I'll go with you on that, I know I am.
So,
But 1995
When I
was a lot
took
different
Munhall's
than
test,
2024.
there was 60 people taking that test.
Everybody wanted to be a cop back
Now
then.
you're
Nobody
lucky
wants
if
to
you
be a
get
cop.
3.
I get it, I understand. I understand. So, we're willing to raise taxes 3 mils? If we have to raise taxes 3 mils?
You're just throwing a number out there. You're not.
Well, I am. I mean, if you're looking at what we're running as a deficit, and if you're looking at the numbers that we have, and I'm just repeating what someone else said.
I mean, no
Another
disrespect.
councilman said it was 3 mils, we were gonna have to raise it, so.
You know,
That's why I said that.
But he has to dig into the budget, so he hasn't dug into the budget to know all the numbers.
Yes, sir.
Don't forget the school taxes will probably go up too.
Oh, they're gonna go up. Absolutely, the school taxes are gonna
How
go
much
up.
can these people afford it, especially if you're on a fixed income?
I understand, and we've raised our taxes here the last 2 years. So I don't know, I like to know where we're at financially before I go into another hiring, that's all. I think-
I'll some better numbers.
Okay,
I like to have it on the agenda. If our numbers aren't right, then we don't vote on this.
we can vote on it, we can do whatever is up. I've been president of council, and I've brought everything out for people to discuss. It's all about discussion.
No, I'm just saying, I'd like to have it on for the agenda next week.
We'll look at the numbers. Sure, we can do that. I'd like to know what it's gonna affect us this year and next year, and what we're gonna have to raise taxes for, because I know in looking at the budget from last year and approving it, that we were gonna be running short into next year. And if we chose to hire more police officers, we're gonna have to raise taxes. We may still have to raise taxes already, so that's a given. And I certainly think that, that we need SRO officers. I'm not saying we don't need people in the school, but I do think that we need to upgrade our school security a little bit there, where if we have 2 security guys in the park school, they should have a radio on them to say, you know what? If you have a radio on you right now, they should have a radio while they're in that school, and they're security guys. So that tells me that if they're there walking through the school and they see something that they don't, even outside the building, and say, hey, there's a problem here, they could have a police officer there. If he's in the building, he could be there, but if he's half a block away in the police car, he could be there just as well, so.
And they could be in the garden plan, answering a call in the garden plan, and there'll be 2 guys on the street, and there's a school shooter, and they're coming from the garden plan. And we'll get an SRO, he's in the building.
Right.
It could be on the lower, it could be on the water.
Absolutely.
It's up by a train. I mean, there's a million options that we can say could happen.
Exactly.
But
there are.
Denying a full-time school resource officer for our kids It's just unreal.
We're not denying it.
Another savings that we did, instead of putting, we had a sergeant in there for years and years. The sergeant's no longer in there anymore, so no longer do we have to pay an officer in charge sergeant wages to be on daylight because we put a patrolman in the school now. So that is a little bit of a savings there that we made, the chief and I.
So
I agree with you on that one, that the police should have a radio in it.
absolutely they should. There's no reason why they can't.
Well, to give a little bit of numbers here, Mr. Rand, the police budget is 67% of what it should be for the year, and the time is 66%. So it's only slightly over our budget, only 1% of our budget.
Well, you had 62 hours of regular overtime last month, so I mean.
Well, that should be a separate issue, line item entirely.
But I mean, in general, I mean, you're obviously
That's just
short
wages.
when the street is paying out of overtime. So we're paying 62 hours of overtime in a month. It doesn't work. You're paying, time and a half.
No, I understand that, I'm just saying.
You're paying time and a
I don't
half
know if we're
rate.
actually.
Hold on, Rich, I'll get you in a minute.
Chief, what's the top rate? I don't even know what it is. I have it.
We're actually under budget on overtime currently.
Good.
The chief did a great job on it.
Rich, you have a question?
Yeah, do the resource officers carry a gun?
Sure they do. They're police officers. They carry a gun in the school, absolutely.
I wasn't sure, okay.
Yep.
And if they have a gun, they should have a radio.
Well, they have a radio, but they have security guys who work in the school as well as security during the day, and they don't have a radio that they can call to the police officers. And that doesn't make sense to me. So I think we should look into that, that's all. No matter what we do, they should have radios. I'm not saying one thing or another.
I'm gonna ask a stupid question though, but our SRO who was in Park School, although she was a sergeant, and now he's on the street. We have an officer who's going to go into school, perhaps.
For right now, it's 3 days a week.
Okay. Then by having the sergeant on the payroll as a sergeant, we're not getting reimbursed from the school. Am I correct? We're getting, do they pay us for the officer's rate or the
It would be for the
sergeant's
individual
rate?
officer rate.
Okay, so by us putting him back on the street, a sergeant, it's gonna cost the borough a little bit more money?
You want the sergeant on the street because
No, I know that.
you're paying a supervisor to supervise nobody in the school.
Right. But it's still gonna cost the borough more money, right?
No, because it's what you're paying that officer. Whatever officer you put in that school, there's his certain dollar, say it's $50 an hour, I'm just making it up. You're gonna get reimbursed $50 an hour. So you're not losing.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
So we'll put it back on the agenda for next week and we'll discuss it more. If we want to vote on it, we can. Whatever we want to do, we will. And that should give Dave a little bit more time to look at some stuff and we can get a better decision on what we need to do from that point, that aspect. But I just got to say, if we have a police officer in there 3 days a week, we just need to fill that position 2 days a week. I can't see why. I don't know, I'm not asking the chief why he can't get another officer in there them 2 days. I'm not asking him why we can't get a part-time police officer, because in our conversation, we said you'd look and try to get a part-time.
So we're taking a full-time officer off the street to put him in a school, and we're only replacing with a part-timer. So there's two, I don't know how many days a week they would work, 2 or 3 days, or 3 or 4 days a week, but you're shorting that shift at least 1 or 2 days.
2 days a week is what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about.
Correct.
It's 2 days a week. So, and I'll bring it back up again, because I brought this up at other times. I don't know why West Homestead doesn't have the stake in the game here and take a police officer there for 2 days a week.
Because they have no jurisdiction in Munhall.
Yeah, but they could. We have we have mutual aid agreements, they could do that. I talked to our solicitor, and he felt we could. I did talk to him about that. And it's, you know, I just don't think that for us to take, say, 2 days a week, we can't get someone in there, and we have to hire a full-time officer for 2 days
So
a
the way
week.
the schedule is, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, on all shifts, we only have 3 officers that are scheduled. That doesn't include court, sick time, vacation, so we have 3. On Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, our busy days, we have 4 officers. So there's gonna be 3 days a week where there should be 4, or 4 days a week, there should be 4 officers. If we just hire a part-timer, there's gonna be 3 days a week of 4 officers. Not, you understand what I mean? We're shorting our shift by not replacing a full-timer with a full-timer.
I mean, we all voted on to hire 3 people. We voted on it, and when he turned it down that next month, we should have voted to replace him, and we did. And now we're 5 months from then, and we're still having the same argument about, you know, hiring the 3rd person.
This just brought up 2 months, a month and a half ago. You just brought this up a month and a half ago.
I brought it up every single month.
No, you,
I have.
all right, so let's move, let's move on. Let's move on, because we're not gonna get anywhere. Let's move on to the next thing, electric garbage storage and electric charging stations throughout the borough. We already talked about that, right? Discuss the Allegheny Trail landslide issues.
You want to?
Sure, I'll say. David and I, a representative from COG, Steelworkers COG, and the fellow who is in charge, Tom Petrus, walked from Kennywood down towards the waterfront. There are 8 landslides right now that 3 of them are real bad, but they are trying to apply for money to get this fixed. They do have like 2 million plus guaranteed. They're looking into grant money, and they're asking that each community going down, Duquesne, West Mifflin, us, you know, keep on Whitaker, all the way down, if we would supply a letter saying we would like to see the landslide situation fixed, we support getting grant money, because the more supporters they have, the better it looks for them. They don't have support from the communities. It looks like nobody cares about that. I will say from personal experience, I know down in Cumberland, Maryland, the bike trail comes through, the Allegheny Gap Trail comes through. You can't even imagine how much businesses have thrived over the head of these bikers coming through. You come up to Connellsville. Connellsville was nothing, people, 10 years ago, trust me. Right now, they're doing very good because of that bike trail. David and I saw, how many days? I mean, we walked for like an hour and a half. Yeah, a nice amount of people, every one of them commented on how wonderful that trail is to be able to have. The one guy came from North Side. I personally said, I'd like to see us support the Regional Trail Corporation to back them to get money. Because if they get money, and that means we'll get money down at the waterfront and along that trail.
We have our own landslides that we need to worry about getting funding for. You know,
We're
trying to help
not
somebody else
Agreed.
get funding. And not just be rude, but the bike traffic, there's no really business in Munhall that is thriving off of the bike traffic. It's not like in Connellsville and Elizabeth Township and Little Blossom, and you ride through the community and you get off the bike and you go in and get a bite to eat. We're not really gaining anything huge from it, but people parking in their cars, you added traffic to the waterfront at that point.
Well, there probably is restaurant business and whatnot, but not in Munhall.
Right, we're not physically gaining
Right.
from the bike traffic. that we're gonna fight from grant money for somebody else and we need our own.
Well, basically, all they're asking for is basically a letter of support.
Just support, letterhead.
Right, that's all. They're not saying we go out and look for money for them.
Right.
That's all they requested.
So, do we want to vote on that? Do we vote on something like that tonight?
No,
Is it a letter?
As needed. If there's ever a grant opportunity, they need a letter of support from the borough, then we could send that out. But I don't think there's anything we need to vote on specifically.
All right, so we don't need to vote to say, hey,
It's just an update.
we want to write them a letter or not.
I don't think you need to at this point.
Okay. All right, and it's not Munhall's property.
No,
It's not Munhall's property.
It's not.
So there you go. All right, so, public comments? Go ahead.
Susie Collins, West Front Road, just one voice of a taxpayer in the community. If taxes go up because we hire a police officer, it's a return on our investment, because no one wants to live in a community where they don't feel safe. And then, or people driving, speeding through, but there's nobody to enforce the rules. So again, one voice, full-time police officer, I say all day.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks.
go ahead.
Dawn Orlando, Shady Avenue. Unfortunately, I have a few questions. First, I wanted to know, there was a resident / business owner on Morgan's Lane, and he, in August, was supposed to
Get a permit.
clean up or do what
He was supposed to have a building permit.
So what was the result of
It's being
that?
handled through the legal process.
Okay, I don't think I understand that, David.
He's being taken to court.
He has been, okay, so he didn't comply is what you're
That's
saying,
correct.
is that right? Great, thank you. My second question, perhaps the engineer can answer. When we were speaking about Ravine Street, the gentleman says Ravine Street is 1.1 mile from 837 up to the borough or whatever. Could you please tell us, 0.7 miles is the borough. So that would be 837 up until what point? When does the borough stop and the county begin?
The 1300 block.
Yeah.
There's a little bridge, it says, there's a little sign.
West Mifflin.
There's a little bridge that says, county maintenance.
Okay, but could somebody please tell me generally
He's
where
looking
that
at it.
sign is?
It's like, I can't describe the town that's right there on that
It's
line.
like right at the 1300 block,
To the blue line.
right before 1300 block.
DNR on it.
Huh?
Okay,
Right by the stop sign.
Yeah,
oh,
Yeah, where
okay.
the,
yeah,
where the trail comes down.
yeah.
Yep.
Where the that black path,
Yes, yes,
black
yes.
path, that's the easiest way to.
Gotcha, okay, great.
Show your age, but
So
black path.
I know.
Munhall is ravine from 837 to that point, and then there's that stretch that's still in Munhall, but it's a county road.
But it is county road, okay, great. My third and last question, thanks for bearing with me, is, and I think this would go to Chief Fuller, please. When I was at the Blight meeting last week, you know, there were a lot of things that we spoke about. One being the reinstitution of the crime watch. Our borough manager, you know, says maybe if we could get like one street to do it, then other streets will say, hey, this is working, you know, how can we do this? But I think I would rather go the route of the entire community. And I know Officer Bean plays a large part in that. I wonder if, because Ms. Lawson and I were agreeable to start this up again with either your help and assistance or Officer Bean's help and assistance. So what is your, you know, what is your guidance? Where do we start?
I'll talk to Officer Boney tomorrow and have him get in contact with the both of you, and
Okay.
we'll see where it goes from there. We'll
That's-
put it on our website, and maybe schedule some meetings,
Okay.
see who shows up.
Perfect.
Yeah, I did contact Carol Screwman, who was one of the original originators of it, and I asked her, how did you get it started? And she said basically they did it by voting districts, was how they set up the blocks, and then they also went door to door and asked people to participate. So she agreed that she'd help, and Nick Pagrillo was also a big help when we were doing it, and I'm sure he would. So if you guys
I'm
want to get it
supported also
started,
with you.
And so would I. I'll be
So-
more than happy to start.
Yeah, like I said, I've already talked to Carol, and I think, if we want to get a little meeting together, I'm willing to work on it.
Okay,
Good.
be in touch.
That's it.
Okay, any other input?
Just a couple things. One thing I forgot, and one thing I want to definitely bring up. We're gonna have, one of the mayor's liaisons gonna be here next month. It's Piper Olak. She should be here next week. I'm meeting with her in the next couple of days. So this student high school kid that comes in.
Okay.
And they recommended this Piper Olak.
Okay.
And secondly, I've been waiting a long time. I tried to take in all the information and on the U.S. Steel, Nippon Steel issue. I am following kind of Mayor Kelly's lead. I've watched some things on his remark lately. I am really afraid that we are going to lose jobs in this Steel Valley and all over. I'm really afraid that they're going to, U.S. Steel Corporation is going to keep up on their threats and move out, their headquarters out of here, where thousands of jobs will be lost, not just in the headquarters, but a lot in our steel mills by not adding these upgrades. Some of you worked in the steel mills and know, I think they need upgrades to keep things going and keep things running. And Nippon Steel's making a heck of an investment, and it's not like we're dealing with, Russia or, a country. So I am taking a stand on that now, and I recently received a thing that they would like residents and councils to send out things.
I received the same
You get it too?
information.
And I've been weighing it out for some time. I've went to a few meetings, and, I'm going against both of our presidential candidates who are for it. But I think we just have to take a stand on this as people in the municipalities that this would involve, where possible loss of jobs is occurring. So maybe we can take a vote next week if we support the agreement and send it to our senators.
We can do that. Some councilmen may oppose and may not choose to.
We'll lay it out where it is.
But certainly, I will sponsor that on the agenda.
Thank you.
Because I got the same information from you was it yesterday or today?
Yeah, I think we got it yesterday.
And I've not said anything publicly, but I am in favor of it as well. And I gotta tell you, I was working in West Mifflin, and next door there was a gentleman who his family lived there, and he was getting ready to go to work. And I said, your neighbor's without water, can we borrow water off of you? He said, yeah, but I'm going to work, so what you gotta do? I'm starting right now, and he worked for U.S. Steel at the mill, in, I guess West Mifflin, I think it is, which one, I'm not sure which.
It's Urban
Works. And I asked him directly how he felt about the merger, and he told me directly that it will be good for the members, for the workers.
The ones I've talked to, and I haven't talked to everybody, but I think most of the rank and file are seeing a need for this to protect their jobs and to move forward. I think the company
they want to sell
are
it
the
to
ones that want to, the U.S. Steel executives are the ones that want to not sell it. I think with the rank and file, the people that are working in the mills, nobody's talked to them. They've talked to, the executives. So there's some good things if you look it up on YouTube. Chris Kelly had a few interviews last week with a few channels, and it's very enlightening.
I haven't talked to him about it. I haven't seen
the marks that Chris has made on that.
Rob and I have both attended the meetings together, and we certainly have the same feelings. I agree. Anyone else?
I have one other thing I forgot to mention. I met yesterday with a developer for 881 East Waterfront.
Okay.
That's an empty lot that's, that a company wants to put a light industrial facility in, brand new, state of the art. So that's gonna be coming up in the next few months.
That's the property that they had started developing.
This is a different company entirely than that one.
Good.
I don't have any details, it's confidential at this point.
Okay.
But it is a light industrial, so the public is allowed to know at this point in time.
Very good. That would be great.
It'll be basically a lab space and
awesome.
Primarily, so.
Good. Looking forward to hear more about that.
Yeah. So they hope to, if everything goes well through the borough, they want to get started April to begin this with.
Wow, great.
If everything goes forward.
Yep,
Wonderful.
okay.
And, yeah, these things always can fall through, but.
Yeah, they do. Anything else from anyone?
I just want to say, Matt, the people on Park Square and the people in Hilltop said, thank everybody for paving their streets.
There's probably the only ones that have complained. We had one lady bake a paper cookies, and the next week she complained.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask for adjournment. Second?
I second.
Okay.
Bob,